As a reminder, please mute yourself unless you are testifying before the licensing division. Please ensure that your audio and video are both functioning. Good morning. This is a hearing before the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing for the City of Boston. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2022. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. With us today is Executive Director Kathleen Joyce, Lieutenant Detective Troy, Sergeant Detective Gallagher, Detective Hernandez, myself, Director of Operations. This hearing will be recorded and posted to the City of Boston's website. I will read the agenda items in the order after which I will ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on the, who is present on from the Boston Police Department. I will then ask if there are any individuals present who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident on the specific date. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record. The licensee or the representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement regarding the alleged incident, followed by questions by Executive Director Joyce. Calling our only item today, GSTH Investment Group LLC, doing business as Bijou, located at 51 to 67 Stewart Street, Boston, Mass. Incident report number 043103, date of incident May 14th, 2022. Alleged incident, loud amplified music emanating beyond premise at 67 decibels at 12:45 a.m. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty and Miller. Also, Mete Aslan, who's the General Manager, Director of Operations for Bijou.
Who will be testifying on behalf of the police department?
I will be.
Detective Hernandez.
I think Sergeant Gallagher is trying to join. It's got a message, but the link isn't working.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I
We can send it to him.
Oh, one moment.
Not that I don't want Detective Hernandez to read it, but
I think he wrote it, so it'd be probably better if he wrote it, if he read it.
Just emailed him the Zoom link again. Okay, sorry. Brief pause.
So it's better.
For everyone that just joined, we're just waiting for Sergeant Gallagher to get on to the Zoom. Okay, Sergeant Gallagher's on. I would just repeat really quickly. I will ask who is present on the behalf of the licensee, who is present with the police department. I will then ask if there are any individuals present who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident on this specific date. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police will read the report into the record. The licensee or representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement regarding the alleged incident, followed by questions by Executive Director Joyce. So, calling again, GST Investment Group, doing business as Bijou at 51 to 67 Stewart Street, Boston. Report number 043103, date of incident May 14th, 2022. Alleged incident, loud amplified music emanating beyond premise at 67 decibels at 12:45 a.m. Again, who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty and Miller. Also with me is Mete Aslan, who's the Director of Operations, General Manager of Bijou.
And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher.
Detective Hernandez if needed.
Are there any individuals who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident that would like to testify as well?
I would.
Okay.
Lauren Ingram, I'm a neighbor.
Can all individuals please raise their right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. Yeah.
Thank you. Please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Boston Police. I'll be reading from a Boston Police incident report that I wrote on 5/14/2022 at 12:45 a.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, the victim 923, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to Club Bijou, 51 Stewart Street, for the report of loud music. This call was received at City Hall. The call came from Ava Building, which is located next to Bijou. Sergeant Detective Gallagher made up a caller at Ava at 45 Stewart Street and proceeded to the 10th floor at the affected residence. A sound reading was conducted from in the middle of the apartment, which resulted in an average reading of 67 decibels. City of Boston noise ordinance forbids readings exceeding 50 decibels after 11 p.m. Sergeant Detective Gallagher then proceeded to Bijou in order to conduct a licensed premise inspection and speak to the management about the noise issues. The Alpha 426 Alpha, the PO Win, assisted Sergeant Gallagher, met up with the manager, Mete Aslan, and informed him about the sound readings that were recorded from next door. As a result, what was observed, Sergeant Gallagher issued a licensed premise inspection notice number 043103 to Bijou for loud amplified music emanating beyond premise at 67 decibels after 11 p.m. Mr. Mete Aslan signed for and accepted the notice. Mr. Aslan stated he would take corrective action regarding the following. Those essentially are the facts from that evening.
Attorney Miller?
Morning, Sergeant.
Morning.
Was Mr. Aslan and the staff cooperative with you?
Yes, sir, they were.
And do you know how many units there are in the Ava building?
I do not, sir.
So, sorry. How many times approximately, Sergeant, have you been out to Bijou on a noise complaint?
A lot, sir. We get a lot of them.
Is this the first time that you've written them up for a violation?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, for a noise violation.
No, sir.
When was the last time you wrote them up on a noise violation?
I think it was before COVID.
So since the reopening in approximately this time last year, is this the first time you've written them up for a noise violation?
Yeah, so sometimes we can't respond. We're off doing other inspections, but we hear the calls. The residents have my contact information, and I have met with them numerous occasions.
And you've been out there several times, you said,
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
And are you aware of other BPD units out there responding to noise complaints?
They do, sir. I hear they send the sector car down there on occasion, but they don't have sound meters, so they're really not well equipped to deal with the issue. They will respond to the bar and tell them they're getting noise complaints and to lower the music, and that's where it ends.
And none of them have written.
No, sir. They
Bijou
don't.
up.
They're not equipped to do that, sir. Actually, they'll just respond and relay the concerns of the residents.
And how do you measure the decibel level?
We use two sound meters. We have a department issued one that belongs to the licensing unit. We just recently had it calibrated. And we also use an app that's put out by the Federal Department of Health on our iPhone, and they're right on.
Okay. Did Mr. Aslan explain to you what happened that night, or did he give you any explanation, or is it you just tell him that that what the reading was and that he said he would correct it?
Well, we discussed it. It seems to be an issue with the base. So it's not all the time, and probably be song specific. If there's songs that are heavy in bass, the bass seems to travel into the abutting building. And, we've been up on the 10th floor, and you can actually put your hand on the glass window and you can feel a vibration. So it's not the volume, it's the bass. And like I said, it's not all the time. I've gone up there and I have been under the 50 decibels. And, like I said, it seems to be song specific, and it seems to regulate around the bass. The bass seems to be the culprit in this issue.
Thank you, Sergeant. I have no
Well,
further questions. Madam Director?
Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add, or do you want to?
Yes, yeah. Thank you. So Mr. Aslan is on, who's the basically the operating person for the nightclub. And so on Mr. Aslan, prior to reopening, I think in when you were allowed to open, the end of May, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, what actions did you take concerning soundproofing?
While we were shut down during COVID, we ripped the ceiling apart and then reinforced the ceiling with soundproofing and everything. And we put in a monitoring system where we could lower the bass and the volume individually.
And how much approximately did you spend on soundproofing prior to reopening in May?
I want to say around 150,000, give or take.
Thank you. Madam Director, I do have receipts if you'd like me to send them to you on what they did.
Sure, that'd help. That would be helpful.
I will send you. And so, Mete, on the night that this occurred, when the sergeant came down and told you about the decibel reading, what did you do?
I had just walked into the club, and Sergeant Gallagher called me and informed me that they were doing a reading upstairs and we were over the decibel reading limit. I immediately went to the closet and turned the bass down. At that point, I noticed that so usually before the night we lower the bass from the we have a small monitor in the closet that bypasses the mixer that the DJ plays from. So usually we have it at -9 decibels. And on this particular night, when Sergeant called me, when I went into the closet, it was at -2 or -1. So I immediately lowered the bass, and then I met Sergeant Gallagher downstairs.
Do you have a procedure to make sure that is someone responsible to make sure that it's set properly?
Yes,
night?
so on this particular night, after the sergeant left and once we closed, I talked to my lighting guys who actually monitor the sound also. And I asked them why it was a little bit, well, it wasn't leveled, but why it wasn't at -9 as we always do. And they informed me that before the night, they had to reset the system, and there were some sound issues. So once they reset the system, I guess the monitor went back to level instead of -9. So, but usually prior to opening, we keep it at -9 before we open.
And so someone is responsible to check that
Yes.
every night to make
Yes.
sure, and on that night, they because of the
Yes,
sound
and
system
during the night, my light guys are in the DJ booth, so they make sure that the DJ doesn't push the volume, so they'll control it from the mixer also.
And I assume that you've reinforced and met with your staff to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
I have nothing further, Madam Director. He's available for any questions that you may have.
I think we're gonna, Attorney Miller, I think we're gonna go to public testimony, and then I'll come back and I'll ask some questions.
Are there
Go ahead.
Any-
Loretta.
any individuals who would like to testify? Go ahead, Lauren.
Hi, so I know Mette from interactions about the noise about the club. Sergeant Gallagher was over in my apartment measuring that particular time. There are many other residents being affected, but I do not know the majority of residents in the building. I've asked my building manager if he would send out an email asking affected residents to get in touch either with him or me in the building. He is not willing to do that. I think, well, I don't know the reasons behind it, but if I had to guess, they don't want to give residents, they don't want residents to complain and have, so they don't want to acknowledge the problem. I will say I know people who have moved out. There were other people that were going to be, that could have potentially come to this. Unfortunately, I was away and I just got back very late last night. And yeah, I didn't find I searched but couldn't find a public notice about the hearing. So I don't know if I just missed that, but it would have been really helpful. I don't know in the future if there can be something that's distributed to residents next door so they can provide their testimony, because I think there would be other people that would be here. So just a couple things to note. When Sergeant Gallagher came, that was a pretty typical night. There was one time previously I was able to arrange him coming to visit a couple residents, and it was abnormally quiet. It was still audible with the windows shut, but and with the windows open, it was over 50 decibels, but it came in just under with them shut, a couple times a little bit over 50. I've had readings in my apartment up to 70 in times when Detective Gallagher was here, and also mostly when they're not. I've found it tends to be worse on nights when the licensing unit is not working. And I have had, and that's kind of a problem, that there aren't other parties who from BPD who can write up violations, because it seems like there just isn't enforcement.
That's not something we can really change. That goes back
Okay.
years and years to Boston police rules.
Sure, but I just want to note it because Attorney Miller stated he questioned whether there have been other complaints and how many times there have been violations. And as Sergeant Gallagher said, you know, they have other calls they have to respond to. The likelihood of them being available at the time a resident calls on the day that they calls is pretty small. And I have talked to other people in my building, some people that it's just come up with. I don't know most of the residents, but the ones I've happened to talk to who are on my side, there's people all the way up to the highest floor I talked to was the 26th floor, and they can still hear it on the 26th floor. I'm on the 10th floor, so it's a much bigger impact. Other residents have told me, and I have this in writing that I can share with the licensing board if I get the permission of, you know, the parties who mentioned it, but they even have a hard time watching TV or relaxing because the bass is just nonstop. Even if you're trying to sleep, you can't block it out. And, you know, it's to the point where there's been times, there was one day I just decided, okay, I have a background of music. I have the windows shut. It's 1:58 a.m. I'm just going to write out the bass line. So I wrote it out. I sent it to Mette and Sergeant Gallagher. So it's to the point where not only do you feel bass, but I can hear the melodies. I can hear it in the shower, which is about 10 feet away from the wall with the water on, and my shower head makes a lot of hissing noises. It's quite loud, but I can still feel the bass. I don't know. I just, it's had a huge impact on my health, my sleep, just my sanity and being able to relax. And I'm just really confused as to why it's so difficult to remedy the problem, because I have told Mete that the main problem area is usually between 40 and 60 decibels. I have tons of readings and sound analyzer recordings that I've done, and it's in those ranges that it's most problematic. And
Okay,
if I were to share like the snapshot of what the sound looks like, the levels for the bass are what's coming through into the building more
right.
than, yeah, the higher frequencies.
Lauren, I have a question for you. Do you have Mete's cell phone number? Are you able to contact him in real time?
I do not have his cell phone number, but I have his email. I email him. He stopped responding several months ago to emails. A couple times he's responded. One of them in recent weeks, he said, oh yeah, I just turned the levels down because Sergeant Gallagher, I CC him on the email and he said, Mete, can you please turn it down? And he said he turned it down, and I was measuring with my objective instruments and there was absolutely no change in the bass whatsoever.
Okay. The reason I raise that issue is that sometimes if there's a 24-hour contact at the club that the residents can use, we don't find as many complaints. So that sound can be turned down in real time. That's
Yeah.
something that you should think about.
No, we've tried that. We've tried it with the old manager. He was very responsive. He would try to get the sound turned down. The new manager was not as responsive. Honestly, the old manager, if I'm to be totally truthful, said when he would talk to Mete about the sound, he would have some trouble with it because Mete said, you know, apparently it was difficult to get the sound turned down sometimes.
Okay.
Great, if we could, Madam Director, if we could stick on the point of this evening, it would be great, of the evening in question, it would be great.
I got it. Do you have anything more you want to add, Lauren?
I have a question. I had heard, but I haven't seen all the rules for the clubs. Is it true that the sound isn't supposed to emanate past the premise?
I'd have to take a closer look at the license. I can get you some. I mean, this sounds like it's, I don't know, it has something to do with the construction of the building perhaps as well. It's just the sound.
Well, here's another question then about that with the sound levels. I know the citywide, we just forget, you know, if indeed the license, the operating license rule is that the sound's not supposed to emanate past the premise. If we just look at the city licensing rules, it's not licensing, sorry, city quiet rules. It's supposed to be no more than 50 decibels after 11 p.m. Of course, you have people beeping and there will be intermittent things, but there's a difference between an intermittent sound or a siren and something that goes straight for 4 hours. And that's a lot, it has a bigger impact. So it is always well above 50 decibels. In fact, whenever I have gone to check the sound outdoors in our parking garage, you know, standing about 20 feet back from Bijou, the sound is usually between 75 and 85 decibels. So I'm kind of wondering.
Madam Director, I mean, we don't know what system she's using. We don't know when she's doing it. This isn't before you at this point. We don't have any evidence. We go on and on and on with.
I was just gonna, Lauren, I'm just gonna move on for a minute. We'll get back to you.
Can I just finish that train of thought for one moment?
I'll let you wrap up that train of thought.
Thank you. So my train of thought there is that we know the sound is incredibly much louder than the 50 decibel limit. And if someone wants to come out with a professional meter to measure that, they're more than welcome. I had asked Sergeant Gallagher about that. And he said the concern was more what he was told was that he should be measuring in the apartments. So I'm just confused as
We
to,
haven't gotten any complaints about sound outside the building. We're talking about the complaint that from that night, the sound inside your actual unit.
correct. So wrapping up with that, what I'm trying to say is that if the sound outside the unit was controlled, it wouldn't be so bad in the unit. Windows and things like this and insulation walls are designed to, dampen sound, reduce the decibel limit. If it was 50 decibels in my apartment, if it was 45 decibels in my apartment with the windows closed, it would not be possible to sleep or watch a movie or listen to other music. The point is that if it's 50 itself, if it's 55 outside, then maybe if we close the windows, it would be tolerable inside. If it's 75 outside and it gets to like 55 inside, it's an issue. And noting too, I at some point, I don't have to talk about it now, but decibels are a logarithmic scale. So the difference between 55 and 50 is actually really big. It's not 10% more. It's
I
like,
am not a sound expert, so we're gonna just move on from the technicalities of the decibels right now. And I want to move on to Joshua Sullivan. Did you want to testify?
Yes, good morning. My name is Joshua Sullivan. I also live in Ava. I live on the 7th floor, right above Bijou, pretty much. And my bedroom is actually right there at the Bijou window. And I don't really have that much of a noise complaint or anything. Like, it sounds kind of normal to me, where it doesn't keep me awake or it doesn't bother me. The area is kind of noisy in general, just because it's a theater district. There's a bunch of different bars and clubs and theaters. Someone's always outside making some type of noise. So I don't really see much of a complaint here at all. I feel like everything's okay, like noise wise. And I keep my windows open sometimes. I keep it closed. Like right now, I do have window open. I could hear the horns outside, everything. I don't have a decibel machine or anything to really measure anything. But like I said, beach is a few feet away from my window. So I don't know.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to ask some questions of the licensee. Mr. Aslan, how long have you been the manager here?
Well, I'm one of the managing partners of the business, and since we opened May 29th, 2021, I've been kind of in charge of operations.
Okay. And the manager that was there on the night this complaint came in, or this violation came in, how long has he been working there? Or was that you?
Well, I'm the one that signed the violation, and I have Joey Ghanem, who's our general manager of the club. He was there that night also.
Okay.
And he's been with the company for 4 years.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Miller, you testified that the closet decibel was at -2 and it's supposed to normally be set at -9. Can you explain that? I don't understand that.
So we've been going back and forth with the sound issues with Nextdoor. So during the pandemic, when we were shut down, we were doing some renovations to the ceiling, as I stated earlier. And I had a sound engineer come in, and they basically put in a small monitor in the closet where the amps are, and that kind of bypasses the mixer that the sound comes from. So from back there, we could manipulate the sound and drop the bass and the volume. So on any given night, if there was if the DJ was going too loud, then we could go into the closet and manipulate the sound and turn down the volume or the bass. So that's basically what it is. And you could just click on bass and then turn it down to, I think, up to 12 decibels is the maximum it goes down to.
So on a night like this, what is your operations plan as far as how often you go in and you check that monitor in the closet?
Well, we usually set it at -9, which we've seen that over the last year. I mean, I deal with this every night that we're open. So when
my question is like, so then you have a DJ come, and it sounded like he may have turned that up somehow without your knowledge.
And I will be able to go into the closet and turn it down.
Yeah, so is it possible for you to check that closet more than at the beginning of the night?
No, we check it throughout the night.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
Not just when people complain.
No, we check it. I mean, if I see that, I'm in the club most of the time, so if I feel like it's loud in there, I will go in there and I will check it out throughout the night. My sound guys always keep an eye on the mixer so that the DJ doesn't turn up the volume too much.
Okay, can you describe a little bit in more detail what, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What your sound monitoring devices are like inside the club?
So we have a mixer that the DJ uses, where it has a volume control on it. And then the sound goes to the amps, and the amps send the sound to the speakers. So
Okay.
the monitor that we have, it's between the mixer and the amps. So that when the sound comes in from the mixer, the monitor will be able to reduce the volume and the bass before it goes to the speakers.
Okay, but do you go around, or does someone in your management team go around and check the decibel readings throughout the night?
We don't have a decibel reading in the club.
Okay. That might be something you want to invest in. So you can take your own sound checks. I mean, we're getting complaints, and I'm trying to find a way to facilitate the situation here.
Yeah.
So that you're just not responding to complaints, you're being a little bit more proactive. Would you be willing to share with the residents of the AVA building a number that they can call in real time to lower the
Absolutely.
bass?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's
think
another
that's good.
residence that joined.
I think that's one of the issues that's become very clear today, that we need a little bit more cooperation between management and the residents. As far as responding in real time, I think a text or a phone number is better than an email waiting for someone to check their email. Okay,
Kathleen,
Yeah.
another resident has joined. I guess she's in between patients. Do we want her to
Sure.
testify real quick?
sure.
Sammy, are you able to put your video? Oh, perfect. Just because you weren't in the beginning, can you raise your right hand? I just need to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead and testify.
Okay. I'm sorry. Am I just talking about my experiences?
Yep, where do you live? What floor? What, do you have any issues, or is the sound fine?
Okay. So my name is Sammy. I live at Ava, and I live on the 25th floor of the building, in the unit kind of facing Bijou as well, and Stewart Street. We've lived there for about a year now, and I can every Friday, Saturday night, sometimes going into Wednesdays or Thursdays, and even I follow like the fitness pages of like when they do the trampoline classes. So it's like even at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, some days it's just the bass shaking my walls on the 25th floor. And that is extremely hard to fall asleep to on the weekends. And my husband and I are both work in the hospital, long shifts, and it's extremely difficult to get good sleep, give care to patients, and live when it's like at 7 o'clock, it's fine. And then suddenly at 9, 10 o'clock, it's definitely a change. And it's evident that there was something that changed, the music changed. And yeah, it's been going on for a year and it has never stopped.
Great, thank you. So Mete, I have a question for you. When did Bijou open?
We opened June of 2011. Are you talking about originally, or are you talking about?
Bijou, the nightclub. When did it
Yeah.
open? Yeah.
June 2011.
Okay, and then do you know when the Ava building went up? Was that before that or after?
After.
After, and do you guys share a wall?
Yes, they attached the building. I think it was, they said something about running water or something. So they had to attach this rubber membrane from their building to ours.
Okay, are you aware when Ava was built?
I believe they, like 3 or 4 years after we were open, so maybe 2015. I'm not exactly sure when.
Let's see. Do you know, since the club was there before and you did install some soundproofing, do you know if Ava installed any soundproofing as it's a residential building next to Bijou?
I'm not familiar
No.
with their
Lauren,
construction.
Sammy, Joshua, do you guys know if Ava installed any soundproofing?
Not that I know of, no.
I'm not aware, but I'm wondering the relevance of needing to install soundproofing to mitigate something if it's not in line with the city noise ordinances.
So for entertainment licenses, we typically always have a hearing, with the community before we issue a license. So, and the abutters would be part of the process, but if Ava came afterwards, that's where the issue might be. So I feel like,
It's a good question.
knowing that a nightclub existed, Ava putting up a residential building next to one, they probably should have installed some soundproofing to help. I know Mete has tried to put in, so I do have questions for Mete. So you said you installed the ceiling. Do you have any bass traps or like soundproof curtains in Bijou to help with the emanation of the bass?
Yeah, we have soundproof panels on the ceiling. And when we ripped the ceiling down, I actually forwarded the email to Steve Miller. Basically what they did was they ripped the whole ceiling down and then they used a bunch of different boards that cuts the sound. And then after that, they have sound panels. So the whole ceiling is probably like 3 to 4 inches of soundproofing. We could forward you guys in detail what they did.
Please. That'd be very helpful.
Can I just ask if that, what happens around the ventilation system? Because obviously it can't cover the vents.
I think that's beyond what we were talking about. I don't know anything about ventilation unless.
Well, that
Well, the
was
thought
wrapped
is, here, if I show you, there's these huge ventilation units on the roof of the building. And so the thought is what people from Bijou have told me, as well as licensing, the thought is that the sound is coming out of the units, of the license. Sorry, my brain, I get really stressed out in these meetings. The thought is that the sound is coming out of the ventilation system, and that might be why it's hard to mitigate that by just installing insulation, because it might not be addressing the problem. So that's why I bring that up, because Bijou themselves told me that they believe the sound's coming out there, and that's the problem.
Okay, we can ask who owns those. I don't believe the nightclub owns the ventilation system.
Those are our condensers for our air conditioning system.
We can certainly, Madam Director, we can certainly get a sound person out to check that, to see if that's an issue, that sounds emanating. I've never heard that before, but we can certainly get some report from a sound engineer that can check that and get that to you. I know they're all crazy busy these days, but we'll get the person that the company that did the work and have them give us a report on the ventilation units to see if that will help solve the problem. I just heard this thing about sharing these lines between the building, and I'm wondering if that's something that could be causing these vibrations. So, I think pursuant to this, we'll get us the sound company back and have them do a reboot and give us a report on what they think that what else we can do.
And Attorney Miller, would you mind keeping me in the loop as far as when you reach out to the sound company and when they're scheduled to do a visit and the report?
Yes, as soon as we reach them and get something scheduled and they can give us a timeline when we can have a report, I'll let you know, Madam Director.
Okay. I'm going to ask Rebecca first if she has any more questions on it.
No, sorry. I don't have any more questions.
I do have something in response to that
Sure.
about the building attachment. It's possible that that could have to do with vibrations. I'm not a structural engineer, but I will note that when going to listen on the, the 5th floor of the garage or going to my car, if I've gone at night, I can hear the entire song, not just the bass. I could, Shazam it or whatever or Google it. They would be able to tell me what song it was. So it's more than just the bass that's emanating. It's just in the residences with the windows closed. The bass is the biggest issue. But
Okay.
the sound very clearly comes out. So it's not just due to the connection.
Actually, sorry, I do have one more question. So this is from Mete. In the night in question and other nights when you have noise complaints from some of the residents in Ava, I know you said you turned down the sound in the closet. Have you tried doing anything else to help reduce the sound for the residents, the complaining residents?
When we get the complaints, we usually do the closet first, and then and I'll let my light guys know to turn the volume down in the DJ booth if it's too loud, if the mixer is up too loud.
And that's it. Have you done anything else like long-term?
Can you elaborate? I'm sorry.
I was just asking a question. If that's it, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most we could do. I mean, I could just control the volume and the bass as much as I can. But at some point, like if we turn it down, it is a nightclub, so it just doesn't fit the business.
Yeah, perhaps, I don't know, to work with the residents. Obviously, we want to find a middle ground for both the club and the residents, like maybe
Absolutely.
set a level on the mixer, not only the override system that, DJs can't go above. I don't know if that's possible.
I wish it was.
Because I know it depends on all the different songs.
Yeah, I mean, Sergeant Gallagher and I have talked about this too, and he seems to think that sometimes it's certain songs with bass-heavy songs. So, I mean, I'm trying everything here. I'm on my phone all night long, and just replying to emails, turning down volume, running around, making sure my light guys are doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you. And Sammy wrote that she wants to add a statement as well.
I want to add that I have tried several methods to clear out the noise, including sound machines. I've purchased like 5 from Amazon, as well as fans in the room and AirPods. And I think Lauren's often like the only one to speak up, but every weekend it is there. It is evident. I am on 25th floor. I should absolutely not be hearing that. And I just want to know, I just want it to be known that there are many other people in the building that maybe aren't at this meeting. It is a little short notice, but there are many people being affected by this.
Thank you.
And there are several people who are afraid to report it. I've talked to some people who have tried to call 911 about it, and they get very nervous when they're asked for their name and phone number. Others I've talked to have tried to report to 311, but 311 says go to 911. So it's a little tricky for people to report if they don't feel comfortable calling 911 about something that's not.
I'm just going to jump in. I can reassure you that I understand it's not just the two of you that are affected by the sound.
And I will say too, I am away from home as much as possible because of this. So I've been only home a couple nights that the club was open in the last few weeks. So if you have
I
it wasn't me.
I don't mean
Okay.
to, we've had an opportunity to share your feelings. I get the general picture. We're trying to gather information. That's why we're trying to ask quick questions and control the hearing, because I have to come out with a decision.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure it was known that's not just
Clear.
because when Mete and I had last spoken in person, he said I was the only one that had a problem. And I just want to let you know, there was an officer who came out once that was not BPD on a night I was particularly distressed over the sound. And so he could speak to this as well. And I believe he filed a police report.
It's fine, thank you.
That's helpful.
May I add something?
Who's that?
Mete.
Sure.
Yep.
I talk to the concierge almost every once a week probably, and I ask them all the time, does anybody else complain? Because I know that Lauren is the most vocal one out of everybody in that building. And the concierge has always told me that it's only one person. So I understand now there's Sammy, I believe, I'm sorry. But I've asked Ava concierge if anybody else complains, and they say no. So I'm just wondering, I mean, are the residents complaining to Ava also, or is it just straight to 911?
I'm just going to jump in and say, I think we can take it as a fact that it's not just Lauren complaining. Yeah, I'm not going to go through 911 reports.
No,
We've
I'm not
received
discounting
lots of
anybody's
complaints.
complaints either, not
Yeah.
to cut you
I
off.
think
I'm
we
just
can
saying,
all agree that we've had complaints, and it's not just this one unit or Sammy's unit. So I think we're going to take that as a fact. I don't
I
think
agree with
we
that,
can
but-
prove. Yeah, I don't think people, it might be true that people are afraid to call or to complain because they live there and their neighbors. So let's just take that as a fact. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify that hasn't testified yet? All right, I have no further questions. And I think that wraps up our hearing.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We will take this all under advisement. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director. Thank you, Rebecca.